Is it working?
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Okay, let me narrate. Fine. Welcome to the.
We can't even do an intro right on the second.
Welcome to the Twin Empires podcast.
Again.
I'm again. I'm here with I'm here with Longsword, the writer of the Seventh Legion, the Nightmare Host, and with the writer of the 17th Legion, the Celestial Legion, and the 12th Legion, the Solar Wolves,
Yes,
Kiridus.
hello, it's me.
It's him. And I am Phantom, the writer of the Honorbound, the First Legion, and the Frost
And a
Walkers, the 16th Legion.
massive.
Nerd. There. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Okay,
It's me.
so we're here today to discuss the 17th Legion, the Celestial Legion, as we have been doing for the last 20 minutes, but I had the audio turned off.
We're very good at this. We're professionals.
Yeah.
You can trust us.
Yeah. We're a household name. So right, do you like, as we've had all of the rambles taken out now, Kiridus, do you want to just give us the general rundown of the Celestial Legion?
Yes, okay,
We'll just
so
do it.
basically the Celestial Legion is the 17th Legion. Or they are unique in that not only that they never see the Thunder Warriors, they during unification wars, of course, they were deployed after the Thunder Warriors, exactly a year after, which is coincidental, we swear. Not only did they not see the Thunder Warriors, they also were unique in that their doctrine and characteristics did not change at all when they were unified with their Primarch, Celestia Demonstrate, that's her, and became Celestial Legion. Their gene seed made them unique in that it's not their gene seed per se, it's their psycho-indoctrination. Their psycho-indoctrination resulted in them being more human and primarily feminine compared to their siblings in the other legions. And their gene seed is relatively pure. And finally, they're one of the legions with like the most they're the female legion with the highest acceptance rate. So they have a fairly like equal amount of male and female Astartes in the legion. Because diversity is cool, dude.
Is there any air left in your lungs? Have you just is it all left now? Is it all gone?
Speedrun talking.
You didn't breathe for any of that.
Yes.
So yeah, I think a lot of the legions that we have at the minute, though, obviously the Obsidian Spectres are mostly female. The Third Legion, the Shadow Angels, has a small number of female recruits. A lot of the legions do have female Astartes to some capacity, but I don't think any of them has such an equilibrium as the 17th Legion does. They're quite unique in that respect.
Diversity.
Right. So yeah, as Kiridus has established, they fought in the Unification Wars. They were deployed in the fourth wave. The 16th to the 20th Legions were deployed exactly 1 year after the purge of the Thunder Warriors, and 2 years before the pacification of Luna, and then precisely 13 years after their deployment, the Treaty of the Great Crusade began, and they were launched across the stars. Where for the most part they didn't really. I think I've got here 806. They reclaimed the Osiris cluster, which was regarded as a resounding diplomatic success.
Yeah. Let's just say that during much of the Great Crusade, I not only have I not thought about how they would do during the Great Crusade, it's also kind of a mystery because let's just say they were kind of unsung in that they didn't do the glorious epic shit that the other legions did. Basically, they mostly just negotiated or
That's
everything.
not how the Solar Wolves saw it.
Oh,
And Conan
Oh, yeah.
Sargonis would like a word.
Why don't we get to do the cool thing? Why does this bitch get it?
So yeah, I think to be truthful, other than maybe perhaps like the First Legion and maybe the 15th. The 17th was probably the legion that had the largest amount of tactical flexibility. So they were pretty reasonably skilled diplomats. fairly like adaptable fighters as well, compared to like how
They
specialized some of
were-
the other legions were.
They were good at everything, but not good enough to outclass the other legions. No one will argue that they're better terror tacticians than the Nightmare Host, for example.
Hmm. That's for next podcast.
That's we're doing that next.
That's called
week.
foreshadowing.
Are we doing that next week?
Well, whenever I thought we were doing the Nightmare Host next podcast because we went with the Celestial Legion. We went with the Celestial Legion because they're like not as wacky and like crazy, but they still have like a good amount
We'll
written.
do the host next, and then I've got more time to write for the honor bound, and we'll do the honor bound after that.
A genius.
Hey.
Genius.
I'll
Okay.
throw longsword into the meat grinder first, so I have more time to type my shit out.
Yeah. Before we fucking go on to the tangents, I believe the next talking point is the origins of Celestia Demonstrate.
Yes, you can do it as long as you promise to just kind of like breathe. You don't have to do it all like 100 mile an hour, man. We're all here. We can hear you.
But
No
do be
promises.
quick because we wasted 20 minutes.
We did waste.
No
20 minutes.
I say
promises are
we.
made.
I say we.
I know we cut out. Okay, so
The dude is having an
the ori-
aneurysm on the other side of the mic.
yeah. Okay, so basically, the Celestia, now known as Celestia Nostrate, landed on the planet of Olympus, where, unlike many other Primarchs who would immediately go on to enter civilization and conquer, Celestia acted as sort of a traveler, going around, traveling across the planet, stopping when she needed to, and mostly just arguing philosophy with smart people and stuff. She mostly just tried to learn more about life and how to live in peace and stuff. However, at one point there was a planet-wide war where a number of legions, where a number of groups, a number of king empires, who would later be known as the Tyrants of Olympus, basically began going about conquering the other lands, and Celestia basically decided that she did not want war on her home on the planet she inhabited, because she felt like she didn't want to have people and herself suffer the atrocities of war. So she went about talking with the kings and queens who would actually listen to her, and gathered them all up against the Tyrants of Olympus, who, despite having the same goal of total planetary domination, did not ally with each other because they wanted all the land to themselves and were unwilling to share. And this would later come to bite them in the ass when Celestia led the empires who sided with her to their lands and managed to take them down and agree. And during that time, Celestia also managed to get everyone to agree on uniting Olympus as a
It does
singular
seem with the benefit of hindsight, it probably wasn't a good idea to give this 10-foot tall superhuman an arm, all of our armies. That'll never come back to bite us in the ass at any
Yeah.
point.
Definitely not. And and at that point, Celestia also made them agree that if they managed to succeed, and considering it's a fucking Primarch leading them, how would they not succeed? They would unite Olympus under one banner, and they took down the Tyrants of Olympus, and had them fucking killed. Mostly, it's not like there was no way anyone was going to let the Tyrants of Olympus live, because they stood as an example of what happens when you go megalomaniac and your power gets to your head. So she allowed their
Oh, is that foreshadowing? I see.
Oh boy.
Oh, is that foreshadowing?
Um, and he had the Tyrants of Olympus killed and gathered all the kings and queens remaining and asked them who they wanted to have as the leader, like the king or queen of Olympus. And even though she felt like nobody would choose her because I would not say she's humble. I would just say she thought really low of herself back then. Even though she just led a planet to say
She's depressed.
she's very sad. Yeah. And they were like, "We want you to lead Olympus. Like, we want you to lead Olympus." And she got like really emotional and accepted the offer. Then the Imperium came to find her, and Olympus became the homeworld of the Celestial Legion. Yeah.
So I believe in the original canon that we had, it was Malkador and Hyzo that first ventured to Olympia or Olympus.
Yes.
Has that changed at all since we've done?
No, not really. I am not of the opinion that we should change it, and because there's no reason
'Cause I
to,
think
and
it
we
worked-
haven't
I
discussed
think it
changing it
worked
either.
quite
So
well.
yeah.
The Emperor did definitely visit a lot of worlds to reclaim the Primarchs. Hyzo, he was there when Conan was found. There were a few Primarchs as well but I think a lot of it works as just the Primarchs are also the ones out expeditioning, so it would be the Primarchs that would find other Primarchs.
Yeah. It was
I was
mostly
I was
Primarchs
perfectly
finding one
happy
another.
with that. Like, if the Emperor was too far away, having Malkador's spy master network or something just report on something and just say, "Hey, look, we found a Primarch here. We found someone who could be a Primarch," and Hyzo's like in the neighborhood. Yeah, I ain't got a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'll send my boy down to find.
Yeah,
Celeste's sister.
that's how it happened. That's how it happened for a lot of legions, like in our canon and in real canon.
Mm.
Yeah. Mostly they were found by each other, more or less.
Because I think I'm of the understanding though that the Emperor was personally there for a lot of the canon Primarchs being found.
Yeah, mostly because he was at the forefront of the Great Crusade, and they just kept going forward, and he just so happened to be where the Primarchs were, I believe.
Mm.
Or he personally came, so the Primarchs saw their father first before their brother, which they might not get along with.
But like as Hyzo was basically like a carbon copy of the Emperor in the RP, and like he's quite beholden to the Imperium's kind of like morals and how it should be. Definitely in canon as well, because he follows the Emperor without question until the later half of the heresy. It seemed like it was the right choice to have him be the one to find some of the Primarchs as well.
Yeah.
But we're getting off track. We're going off on a tangent here.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So
Changes to the Legion.
Celestia, what did she do when she found the Celestial Legion? Because obviously Celestia returned to Terra, and met with Ace Mechanus and Hyzo Renai.
As
Is that
well
better?
as the few daughters of hers who managed to arrive, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was in order. We had Hyzo, then we had
Ace.
Ace Varanus, then Celestia, and
Yeah.
then Barcus. So Celestia was one of the first three found. She was she interrupted kind of like just the bro bonding road trip good time that Ace and Hyzo were having.
Yeah. Because all the attention must be upon her. She's a Primarch.
I
But-
mean, I can't comment on what happened there because I don't think I was in the server at that point. But
I don't
was
think
it
you were at that
Celestia who?
point.
No, because Celestia, Ace, and Hyzo had already been found by that point. But wasn't it Celestia who found me, or rather Visor?
Celestia was there with, I believe, Barcus, Malkador, and some of the Custodes when they went down to Madrim. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But yeah, no. Celestia probably had one of the larger impacts on on how Primarch Discovery was found. As obviously it was quite early on. Celestia introduced, I think it was known as the Recall Doctrine, established by Hyzo, Aze, and Celestia, that better allowed legions that their Primarchs had been discovered to better disengage from combat, and assemble for the discovery of their Primarch, which we personally believed was quite important. Obviously, not the full legion would be able to withdraw, but a notable number of it. In some cases, obviously, that wasn't particularly possible. Some were just too deeply entrenched to go and meet their Primarch personally, so they had to go to them instead.
Yeah.
But the assembly area was definitely a lot smaller when Celestia, Aze, and Hyzo were found. Definitely.
Yeah, there was less of a. One second. There was less of a fucking like place for. There was less of a like a finding area when those three were found, so they didn't really think too much about whether like they could find a product very much near Terra, but his legion might be on the other side of the galaxy. They didn't exactly think about that back then because there wasn't such a way of thought back then. Like the area they knew of wasn't that far back then, so they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course.
But yeah, when Celestia came to her legion, she obviously not changed much because they already like got along, like character-wise and doctrine-wise. However, she did introduce something that the Celestial Legion originally did not have in the form of Crusade fleets, which is kind of inspired by the Black Templars, but it's basically Celestia made it so that the Celestial Legion, no matter where, would have a presence by making sure that there was a fleet for each segmentum, excluding Solar, because they did not believe that Solar could ever be in that big of a danger since it was. They actually did not think it could be that much of a danger, so they did not.
Oh dear.
Hang on a second. Do you guys hear that? There's a knock on the door. It's the Ordo Hindsightus just calling in. Just to check how things are going.
They did actually message me before this saying that was a probably really bad idea on the Celestial Legion's part. But I didn't listen because I have high hopes.
They just sent through like a really conceited email just saying, "Oh, only 4 fleets. Yeah, that'll work out."
Yeah. You know, we're sure that with the biggest legion in the galaxy, you would be able to effectively defend the entire Imperium, particularly the most important parts.
Yo, we built the wall, okay? We built the wall.
Space wall.
Space
wall.
We built the wall. It isn't upon us to defend it anymore, except it is. But still, she had a Crusade fleet in every segment barring Solar, and those fleets had a certain amount of chapters in them, with one of the Lord Commanders, which is the chapter master equivalent in the Celestial Legion, leading the Crusade fleet. So, for example, there would be say.
The Celestial whole point of ensuring the Crusade fleets were better were designed to rapidly respond to threats, or just kind of like equipped to basically handle themselves. They were quite self-sufficient in a way that they could just be constantly moving from war zone to war zone. They were very helpful.
Okay, guys, this is great, but I would just like to point out that we're less than halfway through the list of things, and we have 17 minutes left.
Shit. Okay.
Oh!
I mean,
we did actually talk about. Okay, we didn't talk about 2 things just now: the changes to the Legion and the organization of the Legion. And as I did say, like Celestia, I didn't write much about the Great Crusade part, so I can just mention the singular character I managed to write in panic before this began. Sonia Ludenbach. She is.
I could just feel the
an
hate,
anime
like,
reference.
I can just feel the hate emanating out of Longsword's fucking profile picture.
Oh boy. Oh
Alex
boy.
is for police.
You are glad I'm having an aneurysm on this side of the mic, because you would not want me to be on the other side of your mic right now.
You're adorable.
But yes, Sonia Ludenbach is the chapter master. Then, was their first chapter master, aka like in second only to Celestia. In the Celestial Legion. Before Celestia came back, she was the Legion Master. She was born to a noble house on Terra, and since her birth, unlike her several different other sisters, she was trained vigorously to join the ranks of the 17th Legion, and she did not like that at all until she met the Esaris of the 17th Legion when they came to recruit from where she lived. And she was like in awe of their beauty and might, that she was like, I will join these people, I want to be just like them. And she joined them, and eventually became the first
And if it
captain
wasn't for
when
that, then
her
the slumber party that they were hosting afterwards, like, just definitely.
and when her then Legion Master fell in battle, she was the first captain, and they decided that Sonia would replace her. Sonia had, because she's like a kind of a tactical genius, not equal to Primarchs, of course, or people who are supposed to be people whose whole thing is being tactical. She has an almost perfect track record, having almost never lost a battle since she became Legion Master. And something that this has got into her head, but because she has been a lot kinder since she became Legion Master. But some people are like, oh, she's just nice like that, and she is believed to be the founder of the Faithful, which we'll get into in a bit.
We don't talk about that just yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into it later when I talk about the Lawful and the Faithful.
There isn't much later left.
Oh yeah, right.
The stream's just gonna end at 5 o'clock. Long as well, no,
Well,
it's over.
you said you had a dinner penciled in.
Oh no, we had it now. We had it at 2. We had it at 2. It's all good.
Oh,
Yeah, we can run over a little bit. You don't like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh.
We can overrun. Like. Just
Oh, well,
calm.
that's good.
Be calm.
Yeah.
That's good.
Be
That's
calm.
But yeah.
it's a good thing that happened.
It is a good thing that happened. I was
Yeah,
surprised
isn't
as
it?
well. They started marching out with all the food, and I was like, wait, what? What? It's 5 o'clock already. What happened to the stream?
Yeah. I don't know why, but I don't know why, but whenever I think you're like any of Phantom's experience, I just think of him as literally Genji. So it just sounds very dumb seeing Genji get utterly confused.
It's.
But yeah,
Yeah, you just imagine like my entire family sat at the table, and there's this one dude sat wearing like a full plate helmet.
yeah,
You've got your light up Genji mask on constantly. Macy has never seen your face.
Nope.
yeah.
The wedding pictures are great.
But yeah, basically, they believe that she was the founder of the Faithful, which is the faction within the Celestial Legion, and later a faction within Celestial Legion's successors that believe in the Lectitio Divinatas and believe that the Emperor, as well as all Primarchs, are gods. However, she's actually not the founder of this little faction. It was actually Chief Tactician Athena, who I have not written about. Do not ask me to explain her. It was actually her who founded the Faithful, in a sense, because it was her who revealed it to Sonia, who then revealed it to the rest of the Legion.
Oh, this
Right.
This Athena lady sounds kind of cool. Is there any lore written on her?
I hate you so much.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear about her. Come on, tell us more. Tell us more.
Actually,
I'd
okay,
love to hear more about her.
I'm
Tell
gonna.
us more. Go on. Go on. Go on.
Please, actually, from what I can remember, from what I have like written in like my little notes on my school notepad, I wasted my math space for that. Athena is a rather antisocial person who basically hates being who she is, because tacticians in the Celestial Legion are basically advisors to other people in the Legion, And because she's the chief tactician, she just gives advice to like Sonia and Celestia, neither of whom she thinks needs that advice. And she's also kind of indicating to Celestial Legion that she acts less emotional and only sees things through a tactical perspective. She's basically miniature Perturaba from what I have written. But anyway,
Jesus.
going forward, relationship with the other Primarchs. Do you guys want me to explain Raziel and Odin?
Should we start with the positives first?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So there
Right,
were.
Moving down.
You want to go off,
the-
Phantom?
Yeah, I'll handle this one to an extent.
Okay.
If we move down them then. So Heizo, pretty. I'd like to think, unless you've got anything else to say, that Heizo was on pretty good terms with Celestia.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, cool. So Heizo, they were like two of the oldest Primarchs, so they kind of got on very well, and I think Heizo and Celestia both made a point of personally welcoming the new Primarchs to the Imperium, and just kind of like look after them for a bit while they get settled into their new roles.
Yeah.
Apart from Visar, because Visar just didn't want that, and he was like, "I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm out of here."
Leaving.
Just took his legion and left.
We are leaving.
It's like that fucking SpongeBob. And he's like, I'm out. Bye.
I am a head out.
Golgoth doesn't have. I think it's kind of quite a sporadic relationship with Celestia. I think at one point during the Hive Wars, they had a major falling out.
Yeah, mostly due to Celestia being really mad at Golgoth for not following her orders to the letter and trying to save her, which she thought was tactically unsound.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Golgoth is not by any means a tactician, but he could kind of see when shit was going south, so he just came in to help. And I think the relationship between them only kind of soured after that. But like Golgoth, it doesn't really have any strong relationships with any of the Primarchs because of what has happened to him. But this isn't the podcast for Golgoth. The Espathane siblings, Zilthia and Solgrim.
Zilthia, I believe, did not think too highly of Celestia, but she did not have much of a conversation with Solgrim other than the one occasion when all Primarchs were gathered up and they talked for a little bit, although not much.
Solgrim didn't talk to a lot. Solgrim, as far as I'm aware, didn't really talk to an awful lot of people. And Zilthia had very occasional conversations with people. I think she just kind of wanted to be left alone as well.
Yeah.
Raziel.
Ooh.
I'll let you take this one. I'll let you handle this one.
Okay. So when basically Celestia and Raziel are two Primarchs, I believe that have like the biggest beef between them, mostly because of Celestia's treatment of Raziel. Basically, when Raziel was found, Celestia basically like met him and noticed that he was holding a very suspicious book and asked Raziel to give it to her. And he refused, which, because Celestia is pretty paranoid, it eventually resulted in her getting outrageously angry and attacking Raziel, resulting in there being no future way for them to ever forgive one another or reconcile. And Celestia, though Celestia liked to believe that she was still on good terms with Raziel, that was definitely not the case for Raziel, as he believed Celestia was just an abusive piece of shit, which, to be fair, she was at the time. And they also have
relationships like that with a few Primarchs who just kind of thought that she was really a bit just kind of like abusive towards people who she didn't agree with the way they did things.
Yeah.
She
basically, from an outside perspective, because Celestia did not talk about it very much, she was just someone that was very stubborn about her way of doing things being the right way to do them, and lashing out at anyone that didn't do exactly as she wanted them to.
Yeah. So we've got.
Yeah.
I think that kind of like summarizes Raziel. Odin is about the same, but with one key difference.
Odin lost an arm to Celestia while they were fighting.
Odin. I'm not sure if that's continued in the lore with.
Oh god.
Uh,
Odin got bullied so much.
got
Celestia,
shit beaten out of
Celestia
him.
made him her bitch for the whole of the Great Crusade.
In the
For the most
in
part,
the
yeah.
original imagining of it, yes, but I think
Yeah,
in
it's
the way
not-
that we've redone it now, Odin kind of like had a pretty rough time, obviously after the Battle of Olympus, and he kind of he spent a lot of the remainder of the Crusade, the early Crusade, like having to rebuild that trust between him and his legion. But
Yeah.
but the arm went definitely. So Odin,
Yeah,
Odin always kind of had like a very deep-seated distrust of Celestia, and he would quite regularly see Celestia's face in his dreams, his visions that he would have, foretelling of Ragnarok, and we'll get a little bit more into that later as well, because that's rather important.
We'll get to that when
we
we
will
have
get
the
to that.
time.
As
Yeah.
we'll try and I think there's a lot of these that we don't really have, so if we try and keep it a little bit shorter now, Jaraxxus, don't really have an awful lot to go on with Jaraxxus, but I'd imagine Celestia would probably be a little bit less keen of them.
Yeah.
Yep, no, fair enough. Vizar,
Oh, can I do this?
Go on.
Right, so Visor just, I mean, we'll get to like how he views the world in the next podcast, but he thinks Celestia is just like a child, like a child in command of a legion who doesn't have the skill or the maturity necessary. And not only is she a child, but the whole thing with Raziel, he doesn't like people who take authority who doesn't belong to them. And she had no authority to like tell Raziel what to do at that point. So he thinks that she's not only a child, but she's like a stuck-up, self-asserting child. And he doesn't hate her because emotion is pretty much beyond him, but he's just sort of disdainful of her.
this isn't Vizar talking about Celestia. This is just generally Bean ripping the shit out of Putis.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine either way. I don't really care.
Talking then about Belial Dolvanus' relationship with Celestia, I think for the most part they generally got on quite well, but Belia didn't really have an awful lot of interaction with the other Primarchs save for Hyzo.
Yeah.
Hyzo she got on definitely rather well with, but for the other Primarchs outside of a lot of some negotiations on the Council of Primarchs and stuff, there was a lot of distrust. Celestia held a lot of distrust, I think, towards Belia because so much of what she did was kept secret.
Yeah.
Which was often just kind of backed up by Hyzo anyway. Hyzo would just kind of like come to Belia's aid in that regard anyway, so that kind of created a little bit of friction between Hyzo and Celestia as well.
Yes. It's like Celestia mostly had like Celestia's achievements. Though sometimes Celestia's achievements were basically unsung, they were always like apparent. Like she never kept anything a secret, so when somebody who primarily keeps things a secret came around, she really didn't trust them. Because it was like she never knew what they were doing, so it was like, what if they're doing something bad, etc. Yeah.
I think the term you're looking for is paranoid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't want to say she is paranoid and leave it at
Yeah.
that.
Hadrian.
They didn't have much of a conversation between
Not a lot
them.
of people talked to Hadrian, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, mostly because he's a creep.
Don't be mean. No, Hadrian kind of like just did his own thing really. We had a lot of Primarchs who were just generally quite self-sufficient, which is I think it's probably why the Loyalists had such a hard time coming together at that point, because they were all quite independent of one another.
Yeah.
Tigerius?
Well, they don't have much of a like interaction now, but they did have some in the old lore, as Celestia was the one who found old Tigerius.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, nothing much.
Yeah, I'd imagine probably the 11th and the 17th would have a fair bit of interaction.
Yeah,
Just due to obviously what the 11th were known for, just destroying specialist troops. So that I can see that like slotting in quite well with obviously the 17th like tactical doctrine.
yeah.
We'll talk in Conan now. In Conan, fucking despised the Celestial Legion.
He really does not like the girls in blue.
No.
Basically, like Celestia kind of stepped in, like Celestia was kind of bordering on what Conan was already great at. So he did not like the fact that there was a legion that was not only gigantic, but it also did it was also doing what he excelled at, and people were praising them for it instead of him.
Yeah. Yeah,
Basically,
the
every
Celestial
like
Legion tried their hands at tactics, definitely,
yeah,
politics. But the Solar Wolves were known for just going to a planet, um, taking it with very little resistance, and then ensuring that it was a self-sufficient and important piece of the Imperium. And Conan did a lot of that. He actually
yeah.
he
While
yeah, he.
also
I mean,
Celestia would
he even like turned worlds into things that would better befit the Imperium, like could just completely remodeling them. And for someone to do that and take a lot of time doing it, to just kind of like, the Celestial Legion is best at diplomacy. Yeah, you'd get pissed.
yeah, he
Real
really
pissed.
didn't like the fact that Celestia and her daughters were getting recognition for something he was better than them at.
Yeah,
Mostly because they were doing the parts that actually mattered, besides diplomacy.
yeah. I think a
Yeah,
lot of people kind of gave the Celestial Legion praise for their diplomacy just um, because of the speed at which the news would come through that they'd taken said worlds.
yeah,
Whereas, like, because I can understand to an extent how that would happen. You'd hear like, oh, the Celestial Legion are taking this world. Oh, the Celestial Legion are taking this world. Oh, they've taken this world. And then like in between every like 5 or 6 of those, you'd have, oh, the Solar Wolves have captured this world with relatively like few. So the quantity of reports coming through would obviously earn the 17th a better reputation. But
yeah,
the 12th created linchpins, not just reclaimed worlds.
yeah.
Keenan Eusperian,
They were best of friends.
best boys.
They, Celestia and Sinan were mostly buddy buddy with each other, as there was basically nothing they could have been with each other for. And CNN also sometimes acted. CNN also tried to vent what he thought was his frustrations instead of her rampant paranoia, but like fighting, like doing like little training fights with her and stuff. But for the most part, they were pretty good friends, and and I don't know what to like say it is definite, but I believe Celestia was one of the most like touched when that thing with CNN that I do not want to say right now
We know
because
what I'm talking
I
about.
want to keep it.
La, 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 la.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the Nova Bear time. When we
yeah.
do it, Nova Bear. Yeah,
Ace Ferranus, Primarch of the Brass Mechanists.
yeah. Celestia and Celestia had like even if they didn't get along perfectly, Celestia had massive respect for Ace for creating such great technology in such a short span of time, and not only supplying himself but supplying other Imperial forces with it as well, allowing everyone to improve. But in the end, when Ace kind of snapped and became a traitor, she wasn't particularly happy about it.
No.
Yeah,
A's, I
obviously.
think, A's just he looked after, I think, all of his siblings, but when he kind of like snapped and saw how hardline Celestia was in just making sure the Imperium stayed around despite its flaws, he just he just kind of cast aside
Yeah,
that little like voice in its brain that that tells people to just kind of like we should make up and get along. He just removed it, threw that in the
yeah.
recycling bin.
I don't need this no more. Go away.
Yeah, we don't want no more.
I do
Leon.
not want to. Well, there isn't much of there weren't many. There weren't any like majorly notable interactions between her and Celestia. Between him and Celestia, what they called? Between him and Celestia,
I think they were at least cordial to one another.
they were really much special, and they did like one another as like siblings. I want to specify that because, Leon, but they did have a mutual respect for one another, and though they did not talk much, they very much valued one another's lives.
Hmm.
As exemplified by that one time, as exemplified by when Celestia revealed herself, Leon was genuinely happy about his concerns that another one of his sisters died being a falsehood that sister herself fabricated
Hmm.
because she's a great person. But yeah,
We'll go
I have
Vorstis
to go
then.
now. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll
That's
continue
okay.
this as a duo.
I will be alright. I will be around for the next time.
Okay.
it
No,
would
that's
be a
fine.
date.
We did run a little bit over anyway, so we'll try and get it right next time. If we do either the Nightmare Host or the Unbound.
They'll do it right next
We'll
time.
do
Don't
it
worry.
right next time,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah. Try and get it right.
Yeah.
Love you, Bean.
Love
Goodbye.
you too.
Bye.
Right, see ya.
Right.
While
So
it's just the two of us, so let's carry on.
It's a
We've
date.
got Vorstis.
yeah,
Vorstis just thought that the whole way that Celestia and her legion acted and behaved, and the culture behind it, all this kind of like this pointless just faffing around, just did not like it, and he was quite keen to just kind of like make sure that that the Celestial Legion knew this at multiple points during their history together. But he did still at least come to their aid later on during the heresy, which is to be respected.
yeah, because you might not like your siblings, but they're still your fucking siblings.
Yeah, family's family, even if you think they're idiots. Zolan, I'd imagine the Celestial Legion and the Astral Jaguars did get on quite a bit.
Yeah, they
just
were.
as much as the Astral Jaguars would probably just be pretty much immediately behind the 17th to dig in afterwards.
Yeah, they did have a great synergy between them, and the two Primarchs did definitely respect each other, but there wasn't anything extremely noteworthy between them. It was just like the average Primarch relationship. They both respected each other. They worked great. I mean, it's not. I mean, she doesn't have the same relationship she has with Ace and Shannon, like Heiser. The way she has it, like her relationship with Zolan is not her relationship with those Primarchs, but it is still a close one.
Yeah.
It is not majorly close, but it's still close. Yeah.
Understood. And as we can't talk about Tyron because he just has no relation. He has no.
He does not
connection to
exist.
Anyone. Tyron is a myth.
He was created by the space bugs to make the Imperium look worse. Tyranids, Sport, Dark Imperium do not allow their propaganda to get into you.
We just kick the door down. You have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Tyron. Just get out of here.
Live.
We'll talk about Varkas then. Varkas and Celestia, I think, got on really, really well. Which I think is just ridiculous considering that Varkas is based on like Saudi Arabian culture and Celestia is Greek.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of the time they used to have they would have a lot of conversations as their fleets crusaded together. Varkas would be sat on his hookah. Celestia would just be like doing an oil painting or some shit. I don't know.
She does girly stuff.
Girly things. But no, I think Varkas ventured to Olympus before the Sixth Legion Primarch was discovered, so he had a lot of time to appreciate everything Olympus had to offer, and he was just as distraught as Celestia was when Odin just removed the atmosphere.
Exactly.
So
it was...
Varkas and Celestia were very, very close.
Yeah, definitely. So up next is Liege. Oh, should I?
I think we
Okay, so we get into the Hive Wars, correct?
we did both. I think. Would you want to talk really quickly for a sec about Celestia's relationship with the Emperor? I'm gonna sneeze. Oh shit.
Sneeze.
It's
I I'm the one that Ronnie knows what you gotta sneeze.
yeah, I just just talk. Yeah, just we'll talk about
But
Celestia's
yeah,
relationship with the Emperor.
Celestia had perhaps a bit too close of a relationship with the Emperor, because compared to other Primarchs, her relationship with him was almost insolent at times, where while other Primarchs would keep the distance between the Emperor and refer to him with like my lord and stuff, Celestia would just refer to him as the Emperor or my Emperor and stuff, and she would regularly conversate with him, unlike other Primarchs who only conversated with him when they had to or when when the Emperor wanted to conversate with them. She would regularly visit him, like between campaigns and stuff, and she was insolent enough to enter his own library and steal directly from it, which is a whole lot of kind of being. And their relationship basically was like more like a father and daughter relationship compared to the other Primarchs' relationships with the Emperor. Mostly because Celestia did not know what a comfort zone is, and kept getting awkwardly close to the Emperor and just trying to talk with him when he clearly had better things to do.
The Emperor was trying to run a crusade, so he did just kind of like eventually at some point brush Celestia away and just no, here's the library. You can just do your thing.
You have it. Go, leave.
Just go and do that.
Leave.
Right. I'll let you just ramble for a little bit about the Hive Wars. I will be right back.
Right.
2 seconds.
Basically, the Hive Wars was this little war where all the legions fought against the Tyranids, and there Celestia was given command of other legions. I believe, if I'm correct, it was Gulgarf's legion and Hadrian's legion that were under his command, her command, and she basically and during the Hive Wars, she kind of got herself cornered by the Tyranids, and there was basically a barrier formed between her and the legions under her command, which resulted in her being cut off from the other legions and having to fight off all the Tyranids there, most of the Tyranids there on her own. However, eventually Golgarth and Hadrian, I believe, managed to penetrate the barrier and get to her, which resulted in Celestia being really, really pissed. Because Celestia, when the barrier was formed and she was cut off from the other legions, Celestia asked that the other legion not Celeste asked the others to not follow after her because she thought that was just a bad idea. Attack the young son. So when they came around, when the legions came around, she was reasonably pissed and was keen on taking Golgarth specifically to trial because he was the one behind the idea of penetrating the barrier and getting to Celestia pronto. And she was
dude. It's a bit of a dick move.
What happened?
Is it just a bit of a dick move taking Golgarth to like court martial immediately for like trying to help?
Yeah. To be honest, I mostly wrote it as a heat of the moment thing, in that she was really pissed off at the time that her tactics were not working against the Tyranids, and she was about to get utterly destroyed. And she did not like the fact that somebody basically did something that she had told the Mexicans to not do. But yeah, she was definitely kind of very rude at that moment because Lukov just wanted to help her, and she just looked at it from the tactical front instead of the relationship front and went, "I am taking you to trial. The Emperor will hear about this."
My father will hear about this.
My father could beat you all father and the same father. Oh no.
Right. So, post Hive Wars, obviously the Celestial Legion took a fair beating during the early part of the Hive Wars, and Celestia decided that to combat a new breed of enemy, that she would need a new breed of Marine.
Warrior. Yeah.
So
Um,
with the Emperor's kind of permission,
She kinda got a permission.
kind of
She-
permission in secret.
Yeah, it wasn't. She wasn't given explicit permission to do the project. The Emperor was like, "You can do it, I guess, but nobody should know this. This is really bad." And Celestia went on
I
to
think the Emperor did kind of like just have the Custodes standing by just in case anything went wrong.
yeah.
Um,
So with the help of her apothecary, Celestia create what she referred to as the 21st, which you could say is the middle ground between a space marine and a Primarch. She was, definitely more powerful.
It was essentially the equivalent to a Primaris.
Yeah, she was
The
like a.
the 21st. I mean, myself and Kiradus, we have conflicting opinions about why the 21st is called the 21st. You originally named them the 21st because you wanted them to be the equivalent to a 21st Primarch.
It was like her attempt at a Primarch, so she named it
Yeah.
the 21st. Yeah.
I disagreed, and I thought that probably the best thing to do would just be call it the 21st because it was the test subject 21, like out of the 30 subjects that Celestia attempted to create, like the 21st was the lone and singular survivor of the
Yeah.
project, which it kind of like works out for the both.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, this warrior took a lot of hard work to create, and Celestial valued it very much. Though it was basically
the 21st was a unit though, like an absolute unit.
Yeah, it was gigantic. It was kind of hard to not like see it.
I think in Terminator Plate it stood the same height as Celestia did.
Yeah. If it wasn't Terminator Plate, it wears regular armor. But if it wasn't Terminator Plate, it would obviously stand as Celestia.
Mm.
But yeah.
Right, so we have the 21st now. Let's talk heresy, because I know this is where the majority of your lore is, Pudis, Kiradus.
Yes.
The heresy is where it all goes downhill for the Celestial Legion.
Right. So from the beginning, Celestial Legion is basically like going to work with the Wild Hunt, Odin's Legion. But when they meet up, it turns out that this was all like a plan to royally screw over the Celestial Legion by ambushing them.
Yeah, Odin kind of like had been, ever since kind of like his discovery, had been plagued by visions of what he called Ragnarok, the end of days, the end of time, and at the center of it he saw the Emperor his mind being poisoned by Celestia. So I think when it was declared that Aes Varanus had basically just like sided with for a secession, and the Celestial the Obsidian Spectres and the Sons of the Mist had joined them, Celestia moved to regroup with the Wild Hunt, and it was at that point that Odin was just like, well, I'm not going to let this happen, because he foresaw, I think, through kind of like fractured visions and shit, he saw Thamorius burning, so he did not want to let it happen. So like, despite the fact that initially it was just because that he was trying to save the Imperium in his own deluded little way, Odin just went for the Celestial Legion and started beating the shit out of them in orbital warfare.
Yeah. This little fight resulted in Celestia and the 21st meeting Odin head on, and in the fight, eventually Odin departed. He took the 21st life on its first major campaign,
Yeah.
which was not only shocking to Celestia, but also kind of depressing because Celestia saw the dead body of something she spent like years creating, lying dead in front of her, and decided in that very moment that she would not allow her work, she would not allow her legion to know that her work had gone to waste, and that she was that big of a failure that in the first major campaign of of her legion's finest creation, she got it killed. So she decided that she would become the 21st and fake her own death because she, in that moment, she concluded that her death would probably cause less of a morale uh, drop than the 21st death. And, well, she was wrong. It did cause.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Let me just. I got another email from the Auto Hindsightus. Just sent another one through.
Yeah.
So when the Celestial Legion finally managed to get to the bridge of Celestia's flagship, they found Celestia's power armor just completely like torn open, just lying there like with like ash just filling the insides of it, and the 21st was just kind of like kneeling in a sense, like completely bloodied, but still alive. And I don't think anybody bothered to actually look under the helmet either. I think because I think
Yeah.
the 21st had its own apothecary staff like looking over it anyway, so they would be sworn to secrecy.
Yeah.
Um, but I think with the benefit of hindsight, and I think for anybody watching, it just kind of seems a little bit obvious from our perspective that the loss of a Primarch comparable to the loss of like a Roid Marine, the difference there is immeasurable. Like the loss of the a Primogenitor to a Legion is just like a horrendous blow to be struck.
Yeah.
But
So let's
I
just
suppose in the
simply.
heat of the moment, it was just kind of like one of those things like, oh, I can't bear to let my children know that I was a failure, so I better just fucking die.
Yeah. That's Celestia. Remember, as I said previously, Celestia doesn't think too highly of herself.
Mm.
Like, so she was like, this probably won't affect them that much. And then when the news came to them and it affected them a lot, and she was like, oh fuck, they actually care. Well, yes,
Yeah,
then
it's just
yeah,
fine. So during the I'll take the rest of this, I think.
yeah,
So during the remainder of the heresy, the Wild Hunt Odin's Legion were driven off by the arrival of Vorstus Kalkydra and the Frostwalkers. Um, the Celestial Legion, who were just kind of like having a mental breakdown at this point because their Primarch had died, were just kind of broken. Um, Vorstus just kind of like called them children for believing so much in their primogenitor. Um, but at the same time, like he was a little bit confused because he hadn't actually felt Celestia die,
yeah,
so he was just a little bit confused by that. But at the time, the Rune Storm had kind of like created a barrier between Segmentum Solar and Segmentum Ultima, so they were cut off. They couldn't get back to Solar. So, judging by the fact that they were basically and a quarter legions or one and a third legions, they were just like because the Celestial was just broken. They
yeah,
opted to go and try and find reinforcements. Um, so they headed to the edges of the galaxy, where they found the Star Sentinels Legion, the 20th, who just pretty much refused to come with them, um, despite the best efforts of the Celestial Legion negotiating. I think only a small number of Sentinels actually came back, but they also found the full 13th Legion, the Nova Bears, who were out there serving out their exile, which we will
yeah,
talk about in another episode. So the 13th Legion, the 16th Legion, the 17th Legion, and some of the 20th Legion, they made their way back to the Runestorm, and during one of the pinnacles of what is known as the Shadow Crusades, the Runestorm was opened for a brief section, allowing the Loyalist fleets to fly through and make contact with the Loyalists who were defending Terra at the time, having broken through the Solar Line. I don't really think that the 17th did a whole lot of fighting during the Siege of Terra. They were just kind of there to help mop up, but a lot of the kind of major developments for them happened during the Scouring and the centuries following. Zephram's here. What's happening?
Yeah, I noticed he was here. I was just about to say, you came at the right time. We're almost done.
We're nearly done, and I can't hear him either.
Bruh.
It's beginning to look a lot like an early/late Christmas, I suppose.
But yeah, going forward, I believe there is not much for us to talk about now. Oh yeah, there's actually like two things. Basically.
No, dude, we're here to talk about all the lore that you've written so far.
Bruh. Okay, there are two more things, I believe. After the conclusion of the heresy, Celestia took a more non-combat stance and decided
because we
to
need
help.
to, like, Celestia revealed herself as not dead during the Siege of Terra. That was
Yeah.
the one thing that and the Celestial Legion just kind of had like an existential crisis because they weren't sure what was real anymore.
Yeah.
So good job just like psychotically damaging your legion, you fucking moron.
I mean, she had already mentally ruined them by faking her death and causing two major factions to rise up.
This is why they struggled. You went too easy on them during the psychotherapy. They're more susceptible to just having their minds break now.
Yeah.
So yeah, Celestia revealed herself as alive again, and the 17th Legion just kind of imploded. And during the Scouring, the 17th Legion fought during it, but Celestia resigned herself to work in a more governmental position.
As the Imperium needed such a figure to
given her
lead
track
them.
record, though, I don't think it was maybe the best call, but it was probably the best thing we had going for us at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, do you want to talk activity then during the Scouring then? Because we're nearly done.
They did not do much noticeable during the Scouring, other than the fact that it was at this point when the two major factions in the Celestial Legion, the Lawful and the Faithful,
Yes.
kind of just decided that they would just not be constant dickheads to each other, and are like, yeah, sure, let's just stop.
Yeah. So with Leon's official introduction of the Lectitio Divinicatus, am I saying that right?
Lectitio Divinatus, yeah.
Yeah, that thing.
Lectitio Divinitatus.
Yeah, that one. Which wasn't introduced as a genuine kind of like thing. It was more released as a thing to give the populace of the Imperium hope after just getting absolutely thrown into the meat grinder during the heresy.
Yeah.
Right. It was written as a for context, it was written as a history of the Imperium from Great Crusade to the heresy, and just kind of it's a thick book.
Yeah,
but
it was designed in the wake of the heresy to give the populace hope and not lose more of them to chaos.
Yeah.
As I think during the Scouring, it was quite apparent that the traitors would still have quite a large presence in the galaxy. They weren't just going to run away into the Eye of Terror.
Yeah.
So a lot of the legions, they took on the book as kind of like more of a symbolic thing, that they were the Emperor's Angels of Death, and they were going to fight Jesus. They were going to fight in the name of this god. But the faithful took it a lot more seriously.
Yeah, to put it shortly, the faithful really believe that the Emperor and his Primarchs are gods, and as a result are very active preachers of Lectitia. while the lawful, their imperial truth counterparts, think all of that is completely and utterly disgusting, and that they were never created to worship anything. Which, during the heresy, where these two factions rose up, resulted in kind of a conflict between them that some theorized that the lawful, during which the lawful like resorted to violence by trying to wipe out the faithful before they could become a major force. However, neither side neither both sides say that is actually like fake, but there are obviously people who believe they're just making shit up. But yeah, I believe
There's
yeah.
a lot of kind of like friction between the two groups now, and obviously when Celestia introduced the Codex Astartes, or our version of the Codex Astartes, to kind of better protect the Imperium against the influences of chaos. Despite the fact the Celestial Legion was disbanded into multiple chapters, there does still maintain like that sphere of lawful chapters, as well as that sphere of faithful chapters, who do still
Yeah.
have quite like a close like relationships with one another, but never with factions of opposing spheres. So it does kind of create a little bit of interesting in the terms of storytelling, like a faithful and a lawful chapter being forced to work together. Just strikes me as very interesting.
Yeah, that's mostly why I made it to have like conflict between two factions that can play around and stuff. Yeah.
So the only other thing that I really have to ask, because as we've got Zephyr here, we'll make some use of him. Your thoughts and obviously your ideas behind why you created the Celestial Legion in the way that you did, what inspirations you had for creating Celestia, and obviously for creating the Legion, why you chose the theme that you did. We'll just open the floor up real quick and just have a quick kind of like Q&A thrown out there between us.
Okay, so basically my idea behind Celestial Legion was that I'm like a huge fan of the Ultramarines, and when I saw that they were Roman themed, I thought like they were in my head they were basically one step removed from being Greek themed, and I decided that I would make a Greek themed Space Marine chapter initially. When this alternate universe came around, however, I decided I would make that a Legion instead, because I thought the idea of a Greek themed Legion fit the whole thing better than a Greek themed chapter, as the Greeks were obviously large in number and stuff. And my idea
there's a lot about Greece. Greece is very, at least ancient Greece, is very definable at different points of its history of having like the Spartans, the Athenians, and Troy, and just all these different Cyprus, even all these different kinds of civilizations that had things better than other ones, and it's a good concept to work with for breaking down a legion into chapters once the heresy's over.
It does also mean that like the Celestial Legion has a lot of flexibility with what kind of tactics they could do, because obviously the Athenians had the Battle of Marathon, which was like a huge display of shot combat. The Spartans are like are kind of known as just like individually like ridiculously powerful fighters, as well as like they had their formations and stuff that made them pretty difficult to beat. You've got a lot of different tactics and a lot of different kind of like styles of combat that you can borrow from because of Greek. Greek has just a huge history.
Yeah. I mostly was inspired by Greek culture mostly because back when I made the Celestial Legion, I played a heavy amount of Age of Mythology, where I was like infatuated with the Greeks. I was like, I want to make something like these guys. They're very cool, and the idea behind Celestia was originally I just wanted to make her like a reference to one of the Greek gods. I was originally thinking of Athena, hence why they have a character named Athena. But eventually, I decided that I did not want everything to be a complete and utter reference to Greek culture, and try my best to make her her own fake that wasn't like directly connected or like referencing anything of the Greek culture. Because while I do want to draw inspiration from it, I do not want my Legion to just be those guys of the Greek aesthetic. Her name her name, because I'm a fucking weirdo, originates from a visual novel series called Danganronpa. I'm not gonna say who the actual character is. You just have to find out on your own. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay, Zeph, do you have any questions to add to that? Do you have any questions for Curious while we've got him here?
I would kind of like to see. Have you taken that old inspiration, ancient Greece inspiration, and like made a bunch of different specialist units or special units?
Oh yeah, there are definitely units that I have like planned that I haven't written down that are like based on Greek mythology and the Greek stuff.
Because I think the only specialist unit that I've seen you do thus far is the
Stone Colossi.
Is the
Yeah.
Stone Colossi, yeah, which are supposed to be
Colossus. The
yeah,
Colossi.
just quite big, heavy hitting units that
Yeah.
don't really see an awful lot of use.
There are definitely others I have planned. I haven't written down fully.
Yeah, and obviously we've talked about the 21st being like as close to as a Primaris as we've dared go so far in this setting.
Yeah.
That didn't do a whole lot and died during its first major campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, good work. But yeah, no, I think that kind of I think that summarizes the 17th up quite nicely. We've been going for about an hour and well, no, not an hour and a half. I say about an hour and a half, about an hour and 10, an hour
Yeah.
and 20 now. Because I fucked up at the beginning and I didn't turn the audio on.
It's fine.
It's all good. So next week, depending on whether or not Longsword is up for it, we'll either be doing the Honor Bound or we will be doing the Nightmare Host. But I have a feeling that we will probably be working towards the Nightmare Host because I think I don't think Longsword has any more keyboards now. He just didn't.
Yeah.
He just wants to talk about it. So if we do that, we'll probably same time next week if we can.
Yeah.
When we'll get Longsword aboard to try and get him to stick around. Looking forward to it, guys.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. And as Johnny is not the one to say it, I'll leave with these words of wisdom. Stay hydrated and fuck toasters.